Hello, I'm Mike, and this is the part of my channel where I chat about questions that I've been asked or that I want to ask about physics, about physics degree, that sort of thing. And this time there's something on, not a degree as such, but on a physics PhD that I've been thinking about and trying to find an answer for. And I'll set it up with a little story. You see, I'm one of very few people in my family to get a degree. I'm certainly the only person I know in my close family to get a degree in physics, in one of the hard sciences. So I will now end up explaining a lot of what this is about. Why would you do it to people who, a lot of this is generational, but people who haven't done that sort of thing. And I then went on, I've started to do a PhD. I'm most of the way through that. And basically no one that I know from back home has done that, has went down that route. So it's useful to try and find an explanation of what this is, what even am I doing and why am I doing it. So the question that I had to ask myself was, how do you explain a physics PhD, or a PhD in general, in a way that is understandable? And that was a struggle because there's a lot of sort of wordiness and silliness about it. How do you get down to the nub of what this is and why it's useful? And this is what I've come up with. This is how I think about it. A PhD is an apprenticeship for doing scientific research at its heart. You do your degree, so you've done tests, you've done some lab experiments, you have a mathematical background, you can answer those sorts of questions. But that's not the same as saying you can do scientific research. What you've done is you've learnt things that are already known, generally. You might have done a bit of research in your last year, but you haven't really done any of that. You still need to do some training to understand how to research, how to find out these new answers. And a good way of doing that, not the only way, but a very good way, is to do an apprenticeship. If you want to learn a trade, if you want to learn how to do something, you apprentice. So say that would be how a plumber would work, or how a carpenter would work. You learn from a master, from someone who knows what they're doing. And that's effectively the heart of the PhD. You spend about 3.5 years under the tuition of the person called your supervisor, who is an academic, usually quite an experienced academic who knows what they're doing. And they will help you. I mean, like any apprenticeship, you have to put in the work yourself. But they will teach you how to do this sort of thing. They will help you with things like, okay, what is the topic you are researching? They will give you a direction to go in. They will give you advice on all the things that scientists tend to do around research. So writing scientific work, they'll give you sort of advice and have a check of what you're doing. When it comes to presenting, again, they'll give you advice. When it comes to, okay, how do I go about finding sort of the scientific background that I need to do this, they won't just give it straight to you like this is what you need to know, but they will tell you roughly where to look. They will help you understand how to find things out in science, how to do that, and how to do that scientific research. If there's lab experiments, they will either help you do that or get someone younger in the department, say a postdoctoral student, which is sort of next stage up from PhD but not professor yet. They will get someone to sort of give you a hand, let you know how these things work. And that's the core of the PhD. At the end of it, of course, you have to do two things. You have to do what's called thesis, big long book where you write up all the things you've done, or not all of them, but where you write up what you've done. And a viva, which is basically a big long grilling where a couple of people who know what they're doing, who are sort of one from outside the university generally, to make sure that it's not just your mates giving you a good mark, it's someone from outside Doesn't always work, but that's the way it's supposed to be. And it's someone outside, it's someone from within the university, and they will ask you about what you've done, question you, right? Make sure you actually did the work and you actually know what you're doing, basically. And if you've got between two people grilling you for hours, and between writing sort of a few hundred pages of notes, or sort of a couple hundred pages of thesis, of decent quality written work, you should now be able to research. You should now, once you've done that, be able to do fairly independent scientific research. Not in the sense of that a professor might have, that someone who's obviously got more years behind them, but you will have that ability, and it's because of this sort of fundamental, it's like an apprenticeship. You've done that. You're not the master carpenter or whatever. You're not as good as someone who's had all those years of experience. But once you've done that, you have the skills that you need to go sort of and research under your own steam. You know what you're doing. But anyway, that's the best that I could explain it in a way that I think is fairly understandable, and sort of off the top of my head, that's how I would put it. So anyway, thank you for listening, and hopefully see you next time.